In this video, I walk you through the fascinating and complex pathway that lymph has before it gets back into our bloodstream. In many parts of our body, we can see these very small structures. They look like tiny kidneys, and we name them lymph nodes. In a separate videos, I introduce you to the name of these lymph nodes and we talk about their location more. But for now, I see that the lymph nodes are connected to one another by lymphatic vessels. And when I follow these lymphatic vessels, I see that from a very large part of the body, for example, head and neck, these lymphatic vessels join together and eventually they empty their lymph into a larger and long vessel that is called lymphatic trunk. For example, here I can follow a trunk that is the jugular trunk. As you can see, parallel to internal jugular vein, we can find the jugular trunk. Clearly, the difference is that jugular trunk flows lymph, but internal jugular vein is the one for circulation of deoxygenated blood. So, when I follow the lymph that we get from head and neck, we see that the lymph from head and neck will be released into the jugular trunk. And we have two jugular trunks. That's the right jugular trunk, and this would be the left jugular trunk. And we see that these trunks are moving toward this area, exactly the area that subclavian vein and internal jugular vein join together. The reason is that near the junction of subclavian vein and internal jugular vein, we expect lymph to get back into the venous system. So all the lymph that we collect from different parts of the body eventually should get back exactly to this spot, the junction of subclavian vein and internal jugular vein. After learning that the jugular trunks drain lymph from head and neck, and we have two of them, then we follow the lymph that flows through our upper limb, shoulder, and all these lymph nodes that we have in axillary region, and we see that lymph from this area will be emptied into the subclavian trunk. So when I follow the subclavian trunk, I see that in this model, the right subclavian trunk joins the right jugular trunk. And here I have the left subclavian trunk. As you can see, it's moving toward the junction of the veins on the left side. We have bronchomediastinal trunks. I have a very good view of the right bronchomediastinal trunk, and I follow bronchomediastinal trunk, the right one, collects lymph from the wall of the thoracic region, obviously on the right side, the right lung, and keep in mind that that part of the heart is located here. Some airways, for example, I can see the primary bronchus, the right one. I can see trachea in this spot. So lymph from all these structures in the right side will be emptied into the right bronchomediastinal trunk. And then I follow the bronchomediastinal trunk. I see it goes up, and right bronchomediastinal trunk in this model joins the right jugular trunk and right subclavian. So when these three join together, we have a very short duct that is called right lymphatic duct. It's very short. It's just about 1.2 centimeters. And as you see, right lymphatic duct empties lymph that it receives from right subclavian, right jugular, and right bronchomediastinal into the venous system near the junction of right subclavian vein and right internal jugular vein. So we can say that the lymph that we collect from right side of the head, neck, right upper limb, shoulder, axillary region, and right side of the thoracic region will be emptied into the right lymphatic duct. However, it is important to note that in many individuals, these three trunks do not join together. Basically, in these individuals, we do not form the right lymphatic duct. Instead, these three trunks fuse to especially the subclavian vein and empty their lymph directly into the venous system near the junction of these two veins. However, in this model, we have the right lymphatic duct. Now it's time to learn about the left lymphatic duct. And since left lymphatic duct is a very long duct, I would like to show you the beginning of this duct. So I go all the way down to the abdominal region, and exactly in front of lumbar number 2, that's the vertebral bone in the lumbar region, number 2, I can see a dilation that is called cisterna chyli. That's the beginning of left lymphatic duct. And then I start left lymphatic duct. Eventually I get into the thoracic region. I keep going up. And as you see here, I make a turn. And that would be exactly the end of the left lymphatic duct near the junction of left internal jugular vein and left subclavian vein. This is a very long duct. It's about 45 centimeters. As I mentioned, it starts in cisterna chyli, which is in front of L2, and it ends near the junction of left subclavian vein and left internal jugular vein. Because most of this duct passes through the thoracic region, we name it thoracic duct. So now the question is, from which part of the body we receive lymph in thoracic duct? So I go down and I see I have 2 trunks that they collect lymph from the lower limb. So when I follow all these lymphatic vessels that I get from the lower limb, eventually I see from all these lymphatic vessels and lymph nodes, lymph gets into lumbar trunk. And I follow the lumbar trunk. Keep in mind we have 2 lumbar trunks, one right and one left. This model shows the right one much better. I follow the lumbar trunk, and then I see that lumbar trunks empty their lymph exactly into cisterna chyli. So I want you to pay attention exactly to this space, which is between stomach, and here I can see the common hepatic artery that sends blood into the liver. That's hepatic portal vein, and that would be a bile duct. So exactly in this space, I want you to pay attention to 3 pathways. 1, 2, 3. That's the right lumbar trunk. The one on the left is the left lumbar trunk, and the one in the middle is a trunk that is called intestinal trunk. All 3 of them empty their lymph into cisterna chyli. So if I change the angle, you see that cisterna chyli receive lymphs from both lumbar trunks and intestinal trunk, which is in the middle. So I go back to the lumbar trunk because lumbar trunk receive lymphs from lower limb, but when it gets here, it also receive lymphs from the wall of the pelvic cavity, the wall of the abdominal region. It also receive lymphs from the structures that we have inside the pelvic cavity, and even it receives lymph from structures such as kidneys and adrenal glands, even though the model doesn't show adrenal glands, but we know that it actually sits above kidney. So from kidneys, adrenal glands, lower limb, the pelvic region, and the visceral organs here, the wall of abdomen, lymph will be emptied into the 2 lumbar trunks, and then lumbar trunks take the lymph into the beginning of thoracic duct. Now, what about the middle trunk that I named it intestinal trunk? Keep in mind we have only 1 intestinal trunk. Lymph that we get from stomach, spleen, and we don't see pancreas because it's hidden behind and below stomach. I also see from part of the liver, lymph gets into intestinal trunk, and also from intestines. So we have a very huge network of deeply located lymph nodes and lymphatic vessels that drain lymph from both large and small intestine. So from all these areas, lymph will be emptied into the intestinal trunk, the middle trunk, and intestinal trunk empty lymph into cisterna chyli. So cisterna chyli so far received lymph from the two lumbar and also the intestinal. And now I follow the rest of thoracic duct. When I go up, exactly here, I see that the left jugular trunk, recall it brings lymph from the left side of head and neck, and also left subclavian trunk, the one that collects lymph from the left lower upper limb and shoulder. They empty their lymph into the thoracic duct, and then thoracic duct empty lymph into the venous system near the junction of left subclavian vein and left internal jugular vein. Hopefully you noted that I did not say anything so far about the left bronchomediastinal trunk. So let's follow this one that collects lymph from the left side of the thoracic region and all the structures that we have here. When I follow the left bronchomediastinal trunk, as you can see, it goes up. I see it does not join thoracic duct. That's very interesting. The left bronchomediastinal trunk actually attaches to the anterior surface of left subclavian vein and directly empty its lymph into the left subclavian vein.